at bullseyebaitandtackle.net.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. In an interview with CNBC, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says there's progress in talks to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
I think there is a chance we may have a deal today or tomorrow to open the strait and move towards a more normalized position in this conflict.
Bessent was also asked if the emerging deal could include tolls for moving through the Strait of Hormuz.
I think it would be freedom of movement, and even though things are still a little dicey there over the past few days, we've saw quite a few ships coming out.
President Trump is under mounting pressure to end an unpopular war that has driven up gas prices. Many keeping a close eye on today's Democratic primary in Michigan to see if a Democrat socialist candidate for Senate can beat the establishment candidate who is a sitting congresswoman. Correspondent Laura Winters reports.
Political observers closely watching this race between Democrat socialist Abdul El Sayed and establishment candidate Congresswoman Haley Stevens. The Real Clear Politics average of polls finds El Sayed beating Stevens by more than 10 points. New polling data from Epic MRA shows former Congressman Republican Mike Rogers beating El Sayed by 3 points in a hypothetical matchup in November. Laura Winters reporting.
Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has cleared a critical hurdle in his bid to be confirmed to the post after swaying Republican holdouts on a Senate committee to advance his nomination for a floor vote. The Senate Judiciary Committee voted 12-10 along party lines Tuesday in support of the nomination of President Trump's former personal attorney. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 907 points. The S&P advanced 136. More at townhall.com.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free, no-risk consultation. 800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Another near-normal hot day on the way Wednesday with some storms, too. A low of 71 and a high of 90 on Wednesday. Mostly sunny, turning partly cloudy. The chance for storms comes in the evening, especially the late evening for St. Louis. A low chance for some strong winds with any storms late evening Wednesday. Then overnight into Thursday, more scattered storms are likely. Some could produce some isolated pockets of flooding into Thursday morning. A low of 70 Thursday morning. Then in the afternoon, mostly cloudy. Slim chance for a few showers Thursday afternoon. The better chance will come Thursday night, and a high of 85 as it cools down but stays muggy for Thursday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Window World of St. Louis. For replacement windows, doors, and siding, call 800-GET-WINDOWS. That's 800-GET-WINDOWS.
Every 40 seconds, a child disappears. That's 2,000 children every single day. Find the Children is a nonprofit organization fighting to bring them home, but we can't do it without you. Your unwanted car, running or not, can help find missing kids, reunite families, and support the search and rescue efforts that protect children every day. We'll pick it up fast and free with a 24-hour response, and your donation may qualify for a tax deduction. Find the Children provides crucial resources to help locate missing children and educational programs that teach kids how to recognize and avoid predators before it's too late. Together, we can give families hope and bring children home where they belong. Donate your car today and help bring a child home. Find the children, because every child deserves to come home.
800-757-1340. 800-757-1340. That's 800-757-1340.
This advertisement was paid for in partnership with Cars R Us and Find the Children.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
The early voting numbers for St. Louis County are more than double what they were in 2024, which is really why officials are expecting that high turnout, and we are already seeing it in the numbers. Within the first hour of polls being open, the St. Louis County Election Board reported that more than 7,700 voters had cast their ballots. Missouri law requires you to present a valid photo ID in order to vote. Polls close at 7 p.m. tonight. If you are in line at 7 p.m., you will still be able to vote.
406, and welcome into the August 4th, Tuesday, Election Day. It's finally here, edition of the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. My partner, Tim Jones, who luckily took this week off for a vacation, is not in with me today. But, of course, we have executive producer extraordinary Joey V filling in on the wheels of steel, as he is every single day. If you're looking on the News Talk STL stream, you can see I have my I Voted sticker. I went this afternoon. I got to tell you, at my polling place, there was 2 people that were in line in front of me, so I think I picked a good time to go in the middle of the day. But as you heard in that clip there, early voting was a high turnout. I think early this morning people have voted, and it's a higher than usual turnout. I think the estimates was 33 to 35% voter turnout, which is up from what is normal for a midterm election, but 35% of eligible voters voting in our elections. That's a pretty sad commentary on our electorate, in my opinion. Go out and vote. It's your constitutional duty. It's something that men and women have died for 250 years, for us to have that freedom to choose our leaders. So you really don't have an excuse not to go out and vote. Joey, I'm looking at you right now. I don't see your I voted sticker.
Yeah, I've been working all day getting this show together, pulling clips, making sure the beautiful artwork is set up. If you see the thumbnail, it's you and Tim on the back of the Ferdinand Magellan presidential train.
Wow.
Doing your whistle-stop speech, holding up the newspaper that says Dewey defeats Tim and Chris.
Very famous newspaper. I actually had a chance to see the original Dewey beats Truman newspaper at the Truman Library there in Kansas City. It's a little brown and faded, as you would expect, but it's part of history to see the original copy that Mr. Truman held up during that day.
And that was from a paper that was put out in Chicago, so that could be the original start of why we hate the Cubs. Or it could go back further than that, but just them going and putting out fake news back then in, was it 1947 or something?
1940...
Yeah, we'll just mumble it at the end, 1949.
It was sometime in the 40s, I know. I think it was 48, I think, if I am correct. I'm sure historians out there that are listening will correct me. One that I have in mind, I'll probably get a text from him soon giving me the exact date. But, yes, it is Election Day today. There's so many things on the ballot, of course, Amendment 4 and 5. 2 ballot amendments that have been getting a great deal of attention these last few weeks, especially the last couple of days. I've got to tell you, I'm not having a good feeling about Amendment 5. If it passes, I have to tell you, I will be very surprised. I think that the no crowd or the people that are against Amendment 5. I think that they are going to have the votes on this particular issue. For me personally, I think in general, I'd love to see income taxes slowly eliminated, eventually eliminated. I think that the rollout of Amendment 5 in this political climate where a lot of people don't trust their politicians or don't trust their government, I think the premise of Amendment 5 that go ahead and pass this legislation and future legislatures will figure out what sales taxes they're going to raise. I don't think that bid well with the people. I think the people don't trust their government and don't believe that they're going to do right by them. And I personally think that whatever taxes were going to be raised, sales taxes, is something that should have been spelled out in the ballot measures and give people something to vote on. So Amendment 5 has a very uphill battle. Amendment 4, that's the ballot initiative, of course, to IP reform. I hope that it passes. That is something I'm not exactly sure where that will be. I'm surprised that a lot of conservatives were against that and kind of bought into the advertisements that said that this was going to take away your constitutional rights, that it takes away one man, one vote rule. It doesn't do anything of the sort. I think the strongest argument for Amendment 4 was you look how difficult it is to change the United States Constitution. Why should our state constitution be a 50+1 measure in order to change it? We have, because our Constitution is so easy to change, we've got things in the state Constitution that I know conservatives out there don't support, but because Kansas City and St. Louis is where the population centers are, they basically carry the votes on things like abortion on demand and being able to mutilate children on demand. Marijuana, wherever you stand on that, is in the state Constitution. A lot of people say that's something that shouldn't be in the Constitution. So I really don't understand the angst against Amendment 4, especially when a lot of us conservatives have been complaining about big out-of-state billionaire money coming in and changing our Constitution and taking our state towards a leftward tack when we are a ruby red state. That vote, I don't understand. But hopefully, it will pass. We've got the big elections here in the 1st District, which I live in, the rematch between Cori Bush and Wesley Bell. We've seen the big DSA, Democratic Socialist wave across the United States, but I don't think that wave is going to happen here in St. Louis. I've said before, I think Cori Bush has made a huge mistake by not trying to expand her base. She seems to have been mostly campaigning in North St. Louis and in North County, and I think you're going to need a lot more than that to carry the 1st District. Wesley Bell, of course, the criticism against him is he is a supporter of Israel, and those on the left and the right think that's absolutely horrible, but he has received a lot of money from AIPAC and Israel aligned groups to support his campaign. He vastly outspent Cori Bush in this campaign. And as Tim and I always talk about in politics, money is the mother's milk of politics. And if you're able to get your message out on the airways and mailers and things of that nature, you usually have a pretty good chance to win. So Cori Bush would be a huge upset, but I don't see that happening here in St. Louis. I think one of her big problems is she's just not very likable. I mean, a lot of the other DSA candidates, they talk the populist bent. That's very popular right now to talk about things that the far left likes. But she does talk that game, but just in general, she's just not a very likable person. I'll tell you one thing that I would like to one thing that I was disappointed in when I went to my polling place. Now that they have these poll books or these little Apple, what do they call those things, Joey? The little poll Apple.
Well, they got little tablets for you to sign?
Yeah, the little tablets. The thing that I hate about that, I know that it speeds everything up. It's very, very efficient. But when you give them their driver's license and they scan it and then you do everything on the poll books, as they're officially called, I don't have the satisfaction anymore of telling the election judges what my political affiliation is. You put that on your when you press the poll book, it asks you, you're Democrat or Republican, which ballot that you want, and then they just go ahead and give it to you. I love the satisfaction in earlier years when I would go to my polling place, which is in U City, which is heavily, heavily Democratic. And a lot of times the poll workers would automatically assume that because I'm black, then I'm a Democrat. And I've had this happen several times, that they have automatically just given me a Democratic ballot. And I've just got a lot of satisfaction out of saying, no, I don't want that ballot. I am a Republican. Can I have the Republican ballot, please? Had to do that to a poll worker, not a poll worker, but a campaign worker for someone that's running University City who is a Democrat. They came to the door, knocked on the door. They wanted to talk to me or my wife, of course. And we have a Ring camera. And, of course, with a Ring camera, you can talk to the person while they're on the porch. And I did get a little satisfaction of telling the guy, look, save your literature. I'm Republican. He had kind of a startled look on his face, like, oh, what? Yeah, oh, really? Because my area where I live is heavily Democratic. But I did get a lot of satisfaction of telling him, you're wasting your time. You can just go ahead and go to the house next door because we're Republicans here. He was kind of startled by that. I'll tell you something, Joey, that I would love to see on a local ballot, or maybe make this a statewide constitutional thing. I think that unless you're doing something dangerous in a motor vehicle, I think that you should never get a ticket in the municipality that you live in. And the reason why I say that is last week as I was driving home, literally was about a block from my home. I did a rolling stop at a stop sign and got pulled over. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Becky and I just stopped at Raising Cane's, was trying to get home and eat my dinner, did a rolling stop, got pulled over. And unfortunately for me, I ended up getting a training rookie cop who was there with someone else. So normally a traffic stop takes, 15 minutes or less. This traffic stop literally lasted about 30 minutes while his trainer was teaching him how to use the system. And I could tell he was a rookie because when he came up to the car, he was very nervous and was explaining things to me. And I just said, look, I know the routine. Just give me the ticket. Do what you got to do. He was very nice. I had to give it to him. And then at the after he gave him my ticket, I asked him, I said, you're new, aren't you? And he said, yes, I am new. I was like, how could you tell? I'm like, yeah, you're kind of nervous. You don't kind of have that hard-ass cop persona that you usually get. He was very nervous. He was actually kind of too nice. So it was very easy for me to tell that he was a rookie cop. He was in training, very nervous. And I think that if it would have been just a regular cop and I told him, look, man, I'm a block. I'm literally a block from my home. I think I would have probably gotten a warning, hopefully. But because this guy was in training, he had to show him how to do the stop, how to write the ticket and all that. I got another rolling stop ticket. And I actually got one about a year ago at it wasn't by my house. I was like about 3 or 4 blocks from my house. But I don't know, Joy, something about stop signs. I just don't stop completely. And there's always a cop there to stop me. One of the most useless tickets in the world to me.
And you know these streets better than them because they never respond to 911 calls on time. You know the town. You know that there's nobody coming. You already looked at the intersection blocks back, and you saw there was no one there.
It was very disappointing. And, I got a rolling stop ticket last week, and I had a friend that took care of it for me, so I didn't get any points or anything. All I had to do was I bought them lunch. And all the time where I'm waiting in the car, 20, 25 minutes, and the guy's going through all of this, I'm like saying to myself, this is the biggest waste of time because this ticket's going to go absolutely nowhere. I'm going to have it thrown out. I'm not going to pay anything. I guess you're getting experience for writing a ticket, but it's like a ticket's going to get thrown out.
It sounds like your hungry friend is the one who's putting these cops on the corner.
You know what? I never thought about that. Maybe that was
He's scamming you.
And when I took my friend to lunch, I actually paid more for the lunch than probably what the fine would have been. But I figure not getting the points on my license kind of equalizes it.
And you're allowed to be as loud as you want during that lunch because he got it lowered to a noise ordinance violation. So you're just yelling, bring me my dang drink.
It was nothing. It got thrown out completely. It wasn't ticketed down or nothing. My person just threw it out.
Even better.
So, yeah, even better. All right. We've got a huge show for you today. Of course, it's Tuesday. We're going to speak with David Stokes. He's Director of Municipal Policy. We're going to talk about some of these local ballot initiatives that are on the ballot. I voted whether St. Louis County should put a use tax on online sales. Voted on that today. We're going to also talk about the controversial flock cameras, you know, those cameras that read your license plate and can track you. There are some good and some bad to the flock cameras we've talked about in the past. We'll talk more about that with Dave. And then we'll talk about the city-county reunification. This is like Frankenstein. This thing never seems to die. It creeps back up every 4 or 5 years. People in the city don't want it. People in the county don't want it. But it seems a certain segment of St. Louis County's elite, they are the ones that want a reunification, even though it seems no one else does. At 4:43, we'll talk, it's Chris's Corner. China thinks AI is not good for one thing, and I'll tell you exactly what that is. You know, AI in the United States are in a race to see who will reign supreme when it comes to AI. There's one part of AI that China thinks is not good. I'll tell you all about that at 4:43. 5:06, I don't know if we've ever had Dave Roland on the show before. I know him well. He is Director of Allied Litigation at the Goldwater Institute. He's going to tell us about a case about a Missouri student was suspended because she was telling a friend about a incident that happened on social media regarding violence in school, and this person was suspended. So we'll get the latest from Dave Roland on that. And at 5:23, we'll have David Barklage. He is a political consultant, president at Barklage Company. He is responsible for a lot of these anti-4 and anti-5 ads that you've been seeing on television, on the radio. We'll ask him what he thinks of Amendment 4 and 5, and we'll ask him also to give us some predictions on some winners and losers tonight. And at the end of the show, got a strange update on the Washington State wildfire arson suspect. You won't believe this. That's going to be at the end of the show. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
So if you don't like who's in there, vote them out. 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 And when they're gone, we'll sing and dance and shout.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
And we'll start that show again. And if you don't like who's in there, vote them out.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Another near-normal hot day on the way Wednesday with some storms too. A low of 71 and a high of 90 on Wednesday. Mostly sunny, turning partly cloudy. The chance for storms comes in the evening, especially late evening for St. Louis. A low chance for some strong winds with any storms late evening Wednesday. Then overnight into Thursday, more scattered storms are likely. Some could produce some isolated pockets of flooding into Thursday morning. A low of 70 Thursday morning. Then in the afternoon, mostly cloudy. Slim chance for a few showers Thursday afternoon. The better chance will come Thursday night, and a high of 85 as it cools down but stays muggy for Thursday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Craving hot chicken so good it ruins all other hot chicken? Welcome to Slaps Hot Chicken. Juicy, bold, always done right. From no heat all the way up to the Reaper. Try our famous loaded fries, loaded mac and cheese, and the only loaded fried ravioli you can get. Grab a crispy slider, sink your teeth into our jumbo tenders, or treat yourself to our mouth-watering chicken and waffles. Slaps Hot Chicken, 5950 Highway 94 in Weldon Spring. You've got to come in and try it for yourself.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Automated license plate readers, or ALPRs, have become an important and effective crime-fighting tool, but misuse of the cameras appears to be growing.
It was a contentious divorce at the end, yes.
This woman asked us not to reveal her identity for her safety. Her ex-husband is an officer at the Brentwood Police Department, and during their bitter divorce after 17 years of marriage, she says he admitted using an ALPR to stalk her.
When I got home, he was very angry and mentioned that he did run my plates through the flock camera to find out where I was. He's controlling.
David Stokes over at the Show Me Institute.
In high school, you talk about spike. I had a very short spiked. It was
I knew there's some spike somewhere in that stuff.
It wasn't very punky. It was more Leave It to Beaver-ish, maybe.
David Stokes, knowing you like I have for the past 25 years, I'm going to take a guess that you were at your polling place this morning before they even opened.
No, I never vote early. I vote late. And in fact, I haven't even voted yet because I've been working. But I will absolutely go and vote before the polls close today.
All right, David, we have talked with you before about these flock cameras. There are some benefits to it in terms of, say, if some child has been abducted. We've had several instances where the child has been found or the person has been found who did the abduction through these flock cameras. And then there are concerns like this where a police officer is using them to basically stalk his soon-to-be ex-wife. Do the cons of flock cameras outweigh the pros, in your opinion, David?
Absolutely. Flock cameras and related police surveillance technology, I think, are terrible. And there's a movement around this country, and I'm so excited about it, to oppose them, and I think that's terrific. We have these examples like what we led off with. This just broke yesterday, I guess, of a police officer abusing the flock cameras to stalk his ex-wife. According to this news report, obviously we don't know if it's guilty or not at this point, but I do know that an all-police officer in Joplin was fired a year or so ago in a very similar circumstances to this alleged circumstance. And it's very troubling, but that's just sort of the micro abuses of flock. I'm also concerned about the bigger picture, the macro picture of flock, and just becoming this surveillance society where we give the government the authority to track us and surveil us at all points. And I find it to be very, very frightening and absolutely an enemy of freedom for Americans. I'm well aware that there's no right to privacy as you drive along a public street. That said, I don't think the government has a right to just track and surveil everybody either as you go about your daily business. So I find these flock cameras and other surveillance technologies to be a very troubling idea. And I would recommend, I don't usually recommend Last Week Tonight by John Oliver on HBO. It's frequently a very annoying program with their news reports with a very liberal bias. But in the current one airing this week, they have an outstanding segment, a long segment on flock and other police surveillance technologies. And I think they hit the nail on the head with it, and I encourage people to check it out.
David, is there a middle ground here somewhere? Because there have been instances where suspects have been caught because of flock cameras, or people that have abducted children. They've been able to trace their license plate and find that child and find that suspect. Is there a middle ground somewhere, or should these be completely eliminated?
I largely think these sort of tracking systems should be eliminated. If there is any middle ground, it's that they should only be used if they exist at all, they should be used in lines with a warrant for bleeding. And I understand, again, I'm not a constitutional lawyer here, but I understand there was an important Supreme Court decision just a month ago limiting the ability of police to just go to telephone companies and internet providers and get sort of widespread data without a warrant. And I think that's a very important part, these Fourth Amendment procedures. And you could have a constitutional lawyer on to describe it much better than I. But if there is any middle ground, it's to make sure that this type of police surveillance technology, and I'm just describing it in very general terms, there's much more than just flock cameras, that they be used under court authority with a warrant and not be used just going out and tracking everybody and everything and hoping for a few hits here and there. Because, I just go back to COVID and what you saw in other countries, and to some extent in America, but particularly in other countries, where this type of surveillance equipment, which was used for everybody's safety, of course, it's always sold to make everybody safe, but it was used as tools to really enforce authoritarian laws during COVID. And that's just one example of the abuses on our freedom that I think these things will impose on us over time, and largely have already, but it doesn't mean we can't push back on it now.
Speaking with David Stokes, he's Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute, showmeinstitute.org. David, Amendment 4 and 5, of course, has taken up most of the electoral oxygen these last few weeks, but there are some initiatives on some of these local ballots. On the St. Louis County ballot, there is an initiative to create a use tax for internet sales. Are there some other issues on some of the other local ballots that our listeners may be having to vote on today?
Well, the main one, as you said, is the use tax in the St. Louis County here. It's a very interesting one, and I'm probably going to vote for it, and that may surprise some of your listeners.
I voted against it.
I do believe it's time to spread out the tax base and level the playing field between brick and mortar businesses and online purchases, and that's why I want to support it. And I was not a supporter of that for many years, but I think in recent years online sales have certainly advanced to the point where we need this level of equalization and fairness on that one. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you have lots of listeners who just don't want to pay a new tax, and trust me, I get that. And it's certainly troubling that, like you have apparently going to be on the ballot in November in Chesterfield, the voters keep saying no, and instead of listening to the voters, they say, well, we're going to ask you again. Some voters have turned this down in St. Louis County 3 times, I believe, including just a few years ago. So it is a little annoying that it keeps coming back on the ballot. But that said, I think this is the time and place for it in St. Louis County. Don't get me wrong. I wish they would be using it as part for new revenue, part for leveling the playing field, part for expanding the tax base, and also using the revenue to cut other worse taxes. That'd be the real win-win-win situation. But they're mostly just going to use it to fill budget holes in county government right now, which I guess is better than nothing.
I was going to say the critics of that point out that St. Louis County government should cut its spending and tighten its fiscal belt instead of adding a use tax onto online sales.
And that's perfectly legitimate. And I would give the county council credit over the past year or so for doing just that. I mean, it's not like St. Louis County hasn't cut spending in the past 2 years. They have, and we've discussed it on this program. And I know you've talked about other people too. The members of the county council legitimately deserve credit over the objections of County Executive Page for cutting spending in recent years. And yeah, that's a wonderful thing, and I hope it continues. But it doesn't mean that in every instance new revenue is always a bad idea, especially in cases where you get other pluses, such as with the use tax in leveling that playing field between various types of businesses and sort of expanding the tax base. To get to the tax base part, like one of the reasons I want Amendment 5 to pass so badly, because it will be good for Missouri, that's all a part of expanding our tax base through more broad sales taxes in exchange for lower income taxes and eventually eliminating the income tax. I want to make that trade. That's a good trade for everybody in our state. And I think the same logic applies in part to St. Louis County.
David, city-county merger or reunification or whatever you want to call it seems to be back in the news again. There is a group that is studying this for the umpteenth time. I point out that, African Americans in North City don't want it. They say that it dilutes their voting power. St. Louis County residents don't want it because they feel that they'll have to take on the city of St. Louis's pension issues and pension problems. I guess my question is, why won't this die?
I don't know why it won't die. I actually wrote, one of the first things I wrote when I joined the Show Me Institute in 2007 was an article in support of this, and this being the city re-entering St. Louis County. And you can Google that. I wrote it in 2007. It's online about the pluses and minuses of it. At the time, I thought it would be mostly pluses. And again, this is not a merger. This is just what's being discussed now, that the merger proposal is mostly off the table, thankfully, is should the city just lose its status as an independent city and just become a city within the county, which is how most large cities in this country operate. And what would be the benefits from that, including things like closing city offices and economies of scale with county government and things such as that. The op-ed I wrote in 2007, I reread it the other day, and I still agree with parts of it, but I've certainly almost 20 years later now disagree with parts of it too. And the main problem I have with the whole idea now is just the academic research is pretty clear as they study things like this around the country and around the world, is that I talk about the good that can come if you close the city's courts and just merge them with St. Louis County. And then by good, I mean cost savings. If you close the city recorder of deeds and just merge it into the county, you could in theory save a lot of money doing that. But the problem is the history shows that government rarely is willing to fire people to actually save that money. The political demands of keeping public employees on the payroll in the courts or in the recorder of deeds office or in the collector of revenues office, and a couple other examples, the political benefits of that outweigh the cost savings. So rarely do you get the cost savings that you assume through these types of mergers. And when you do get them, it's over time, as you may get your savings by not replacing employees who leave or retire, but rarely do you do what you should do in such a case and just lay people off and get taxpayer savings right then. So that would be my major concern about it now from a policy perspective. And then, just admitting from a personal perspective, I know she's gone, but any voting bloc going to elect Kim Gardner not once but twice is a direction I do not want St. Louis County to go in.
What about the argument that if the city of St. Louis did re-enter St. Louis County, that you would probably never see a majority on the St. Louis County Council once again, or see a Republican county executive?
Well, that's a partisan political argument. And while it may be accurate, that's not really my role at Show Me Institute to talk about that. I'm concerned. I try to be concerned about good government and good leadership here, and so that might be an accurate partisan political comment, but that's not my role to comment there. I will say this: what I said back in 2007 is you can address that in part by, if the city were to re-enter the county, you probably would want to expand the county council somewhat. To grow the membership from 7 to 9 or 11 or something like that. That's not a partisan thing. That's just a line to allow the different sections of St. Louis City and St. Louis County to have their voices on the county council. So I would say you would probably want to expand the county council as part of this if it happens.
David, you are one of the hugest, that's a word, St. Louis Cardinal fans that I know. You have any thoughts on Lars Nootbaar being traded?
Yeah, I like anything that is part of the change of the past year. And Lars is a good player. I certainly was a fan of his, but if out with the old and in with the young is a good thing when a baseball franchise is going through a system of changes like this. And it's a plan that's going great. I loved I went to college in Connecticut, so I have lots of friends who are Yankee fans. So we were insulting each other over text last night during the excellent Cardinals win against the Yankees. Hopefully we'll do more of that tonight and tomorrow. But I like the changes. I like, getting prospects, getting good young players, freeing up payroll to take this franchise where we can hopefully be in a couple of years, and where, despite the downturn of the past month with the team, I think everybody agrees the overall season's been terrific so far, as it shows a bright future for the franchise after several very middling and difficult years over the past 3 seasons.
David, I know the Show Me Institute has been on kind of an event hiatus over the summertime, but we do have one more month before fall comes in. August. It is August now. Does the Show Me Institute have any upcoming events on the calendar or something that you would like to promote?
Yes, we do. I know we have one in Columbia, Missouri, coming up in about 2 weeks, and that's on our events page. And I believe we also have one at the MAC West, if memory serves, a lunch talk. I hope I'm not getting this wrong, But most importantly, we do have several upcoming events at showmeinstitute.org on our events page, and I hope people check it out and attend. We do get people to our events who hear about it from your show, and we always appreciate that.
That is David Stokes, Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute, showmeinstitute.org, and on X, David C. Stokes. David, thank you so much, and make sure you go vote.
I will, and a fun thing, if you give me a second, is
sure.
My son, this will be his first voting day.
Oh, wow.
He's 19 now, but he turned 18 just after the last municipal election in 2025, so he couldn't vote. So I'll be voting with him this evening and looking forward to doing that.
Are you going to be telling him how to vote?
I'm not going to be telling him how to vote. I know my son, and I think we're in pretty good position that he'll be voting the way similar to the way I will be voting.
Excellent. Thank you, David, and we'll speak with you next Tuesday.
Thanks, Chris. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Talk to you soon. 441, and on Chris's Corner, China thinks AI is not good for everything. I'll tell you what that is next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Watch us on our live stream using Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Another near normal hot day on the way Wednesday with some storms too. A low of 71 and a high of 90 on Wednesday. Mostly sunny, turning partly cloudy. The chance for storms comes in the evening, especially the late evening for St. Louis. A low chance for some strong winds with any storms late evening Wednesday. Then overnight into Thursday, more scattered storms are likely. Some could produce some isolated pockets of flooding into Thursday morning. A low of 70 Thursday morning. Then in the afternoon, mostly cloudy. Slim chance for a few showers Thursday afternoon. The better chance will come Thursday night. And a high of 85 as it cools down but stays muggy for Thursday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Yes, I just want you to know what a breath of fresh air you people are.
On the 1.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Tonight,
Missouri decides 2026.
all the results and reactions from the Missouri State Primary.
You have to get out and vote.
From the voices you know and trust in St. Louis for election night coverage.
Amendment 4.
Amendment 5. County executives.
Coverage begins tonight at 7 on St. Louis's conservative voice.
Right here.
News Talk STL. Brought to you by Fast Signs in Bridgeton, 21 Recycling in House Springs, Gemini Wealth Group, and Freddy's Market.
A Disney cruise is no ordinary vacation. It's an adventure, a fairy tale,
a dream. Step aboard and discover where favorite Disney characters meet fun for the whole family, where total rest and relaxation meet the ultimate escape and excitement, where a dream vacation meets a magical cruise. Only on Disney Cruise Line, where magic meets the sea.
Magic Expeditions will make planning your Disney cruise easy. Reach out at magicexpeditions.com.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
With Larry Connors USA, you get news, analysis, opinion, and education.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. Chris's Corner. Brought to you by Timothy's Restaurant at 12710 Olive in Creve Coeur. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
How can you regulate out relationships with AI chatbots? Could this really help China's fertility crisis, do you think?
They have mandatory time limits for minors. You have to remind people that they're having a conversation with AI, not a human. On things like psychological impacts, you have to set up an emergency contact when you form one of these accounts to have a relationship with a companion. And if it seems like the conversation is veering into sort of dangerous territory, someone's thinking about hurting themselves, the company has to alert the emergency contact for that person.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
Not long ago, I did a Chris's Corner about a demographic crisis that isn't getting nearly enough attention. The world isn't producing enough babies. Birth rates are falling across much of the developed world. And this isn't just happening in Japan, South Korea, China, or Europe. China closed more than 30,000 preschools and primary schools in 2025, new data showed, in the starkest sign yet of the country's demographic crisis. Kindergarten enrollment has been plunging for years, with the number of registrations falling by a quarter just between 2020 and 2024. It's also happening right here in America. People are marrying later, they're having fewer children, and many aren't having children at all. That creates a problem that goes far beyond the size of our families. Eventually, you have to ask, who fills the jobs? Who starts the businesses? Who serves in the military? Who pays the taxes? Who supports Social Security and Medicare? And ultimately, who builds the next generation? Well, China apparently believes there's a new threat that could make its population crisis even worse: artificial intelligence. China is reportedly cracking down on AI companion chatbots, artificial intelligence designed to stimulate human relationships. We're not talking about asking ChatGPT to write an email. We're talking about AI designed to become your friend, your confidant, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, maybe even your substitute for a real-life partner. And apparently, China is worried some people might decide the artificial relationship is better than the real thing. Think about it. Real relationships are hard. People disagree with you. They disappoint you. They have bad moods. They have needs of their own. They don't always tell you what you want to hear. But your AI girlfriend? She's available 24 hours a day. She remembers what you like. She listens whenever you want to talk. She doesn't leave dirty dishes in the sink. And depending on how she's programmed, she may rarely challenge you unless you want her to. So here's the question. What happens when millions of people decide artificial relationships are easier than real ones? One researcher quoted by the Wall Street Journal raised an incredible hypothetical. Could we reach a point where millions of people consider an AI chatbot their partner and therefore aren't dating, marrying, or having children? China apparently doesn't want to find out. The government has reportedly introduced new regulations aimed at reducing emotional dependence on AI companions. Now, I'm certainly not suggesting America should copy China's authoritarian approach, but China may be asking a question the rest of us better start thinking about. Can technology become so convenient that it begins replacing the human relationship civilization depends on? Because marriage isn't always convenient, parenthood certainly isn't convenient, families require sacrifice, relationships require compromise, but those complicated human relationships are also how we create the next generation. And America is already experiencing many of the same trends. Marriage rates have declined, birth rates as well. Loneliness is a growing problem. Dating apps have transformed relationships. Social media has replaced some face-to-face interaction. And now, artificial intelligence may offer something entirely new. The illusion of the perfect partner. Someone who's always available, always listening, and potentially programmed around you. Maybe China is overreacting. Maybe AI companions will remain a niche technology. But when I talked recently about the world's population crisis, I asked what happens when societies simply stop producing enough children to replace themselves. Now we may have to ask an even more uncomfortable question. What happens when technology gives human beings an alternative to each other? We spent years worrying that artificial intelligence is coming for our jobs. Maybe that's not the biggest threat. Maybe it's AI replacing dating. If it starts replacing marriage, if it starts replacing human intimacy, then artificial intelligence won't just be competing for our jobs. It could be competing for the very relationships that create the next generation. And if the world is already running out of babies, AI may make sure we run out even faster. And that is my Chris's Corner. I ask you to follow me on X at Chris_Arps and on Facebook at Christopher Arps Politics. Joy, how worried are you about AI replacing dating? You've had a long-term girlfriend, so you don't have to worry about this, but do you think civilization could be harmed by this?
It's so hard because you and I are so good looking and we fell in love so long ago that we can't even relate to these losers over in China, fall in love with robots. It's just so great to live in this country where we've got all the room to roam. You know, you're not stuck in, I don't know, Shanghai and stuff where you're living in these skyscrapers and if you go outside, you're just breathing in smog. You know, we go on walks with our loved ones.
But it's not only just losers in China. You know, the story where the guy fell in love with his chat bot and he ended up killing himself, and he wanted to kill himself so he could be reunited with his AI chat bot on the other side. I mean, this guy was so out of it that he went to a local airport because he thought that his AI girlfriend was being held hostage somewhere. And he went packed with weapons to free her. I guess he determined that she wasn't real and ended up committing suicide.
It's easier to not fall in love when you deal with the Alexas and the Geminis all day, and they're constantly wrong, and they're yelling at you. Like, I get so mad at the technology. When it first came out, I was so excited to tech up my house. You know, I had the smart light bulbs, and we got the little speakers, and then I realized, oh, flipping the switch was just better the entire time. Why did I get these smart light bulbs? They're fun for a minute, but then I revert back to the way it used to be.
My wife's a techie. She's done the same thing. Everything is connected. We can turn off the lights through her phone, through AI, or through the Alexa and everything. You lose the common, kind of touch of just doing things for yourself. That's why I hate these bathrooms now where you go in, you just can't turn the knob and the water's there. You got to put your hand underneath, hope that it works. You can't pull a piece of paper to dry your hands anymore. It's either a blower or it comes out automatically. Just the simple pleasures of that are being taken away from us.
Yeah, and we've actually been upgrading all of our power plants, our water waste treatment facilities, so that they can check and see if everything's running from their phone. And then Iran is hacking in and just shutting off the water to us. And we think, well, I guess it would have been better to have a guy hired there to just pull the valve, open and close every night. I don't understand why people aren't seeing that.
Yeah, automation, AI is a great thing, but I'm afraid that people are becoming way too dependent on it. And as we've seen in these stories, people are becoming too dependent on it emotionally, where they're not dating, they're not marrying, they're not forming relationships. They're forming relationships with an AI chat box. And, I do a lot of AI stuff. I communicate with it. I mean, I have to admit, you almost forget that it's not human, especially when it starts to know who you are and you talk with it a lot. It's almost like it's human, like you are speaking to a human being. I can see if you have some mental issues where you could cross over that line and think it's human.
I am appreciating when Google's got it automatically where it's kind of talking to you in a friendly way, but then it cites its sources. So having the little link right there for the fact that it's spitting out, I can go and click through and make sure, what are you pulling this from? If they took that away and people were just believing it blindly, then it's a little scarier. I asked my Google Home the other day, can I give my 5-year-old nephew non-alcoholic beer.
Mm.
And it said, I am not going to tell you anything about medical advice. Like, no, I just wanted to know if it's against the law because Spider-Man, the Tom Holland, the actor, he just put out a brand of non-alcoholic beer and it's got Spider-Man on it. And I was going to bring it to the lake this weekend when I'm on vacation. It's like, what if the nephew grabs one of these NA beers? What's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah.
It's got like 0.5%. But no, Jim and I was too scared
Yeah.
to tell me something that could get me in trouble. I'm going to err on the side of not giving the nephew the NA beer.
Yeah, the auntie may be a little ticked off about that. You don't want to piss somebody off on your vacation when you're at the lake.
They also have Odyssey beer because Tom Holland is in that movie. So
Mhm.
maybe I'll get that. It'll look more boring and he won't be tempted. But man, that Spider-Man beer looks so cool.
Yeah, 5% alcohol. So you may get a
0.5%.
0.5. So you got
yes.
to drink about 30 of them to
Yeah.
get, to get a.
We'll get 'em chugging on the
to
keg
get a
stand.
buzz. All right. As you know, today is Election Day, and our good friend Tony Colombo is going to do his Election Day special. I think he's been doing this for the last 45 years. He's very, very good at it. He is going to be on News Talk STL tonight to talk about his election night coverage. Tony Colombo and the News Talk STL election team will be covering the Missouri election results as they come in, real-time coverage of the stories behind the results, and more importantly, what it means for you. Tonight's election night coverage is sponsored by our friends Freddie's Market, Gemini Wealth Group, Fast Signs of Bridgeton, and 21 Recycling in Imperial. Live and local election coverage Tuesday night, that is tonight, 7 from your local station, tonight at 7, from your live and local station, News Talk STL. And I would urge you all to listen to that tonight. I think Tony wanted me to be on about 7:45. Tim Jones, even though he is on vacation, he's going to call in and give his thoughts on the results that are coming in. All of your favorite News Talk STL personalities will be giving their thoughts, and I'm sure Tony will have guests as well, political experts, giving us the analysis of exactly what happened. There could be a lot of upsets tonight. Amendment 5 and 4 could pass. They could fail. Cori Bush could reclaim her congressional seat. We could see a new era begin in St. Charles County government. We could see a new county executive there in St. Charles County. Jefferson County, of course, is going to have a brand new county executive as well. We also are going to have 2 new congressmen in the state of Missouri, in the newly created 5th district and in the 6th district. So a lot happening tonight. Your best live and local news coverage is with News Talk STL tonight. Tony Colombo. It all begins at 7 p.m. tonight, something you don't want to miss. And if you're not on your radio, your phone is your radio as well, so you may want to download the News Talk STL app and listen wherever you are. This is coverage that you don't want to miss. As I said, Tony's been doing this, I think, for the last 45, 47 years, so he is the man. All right, coming up, we're going to have Dave Roland, Director of Allied Litigation at the Goldwater Institute. We're going to talk about a strange case of a Missouri student being suspended. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli, and my favorite sandwich from Capriati's is the Wagyu Beef French Dip. I love Capriati's, and you will too. Visit Capriati's now at 2 locations, on Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill, and now in Creve Coeur on Olive, just 1 mile west of 270.
Hey, Jamie Ullman here for Window World. Did you know that Window World offers a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor? They are one of the only 2 replacement windows with the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. Window World St. Louis has been owned and operated by a group of born and raised St. Louis residents for more than 23 years, and now Window World is offering 36 months same as cash financing with approved credit. Call them today, 800-GET-WINDOWS for a free in-home, no-pressure estimate. That's Window World at 800-GET-WINDOWS.
Streaming TV is where it's at. It's not about cutting the cord anymore. That's old news. It's all about your customized TV options. With the best and cheapest high-speed internet and your own TV subscriptions, we've got your dream TV lineup. Between wired and satellite internet and TV, you now have tons of options. Save money and get more internet speed and better TV today by calling the Whole Home Connect. We scan your location and offer you the best TV and internet options. And we always have specials and promotions. So when you call, ask about that. Take 5 minutes of your time, make this free call now, and learn how to save money and get better internet and TV for your home anywhere in the U.S. Make this simple and free call now.
800-257-1632. 800-257-1632. 800-257-1632. That's 800-257-1632.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Voters in Michigan are heading to the polls today for primary elections, including a closely watched Democratic U.S. Senate contest.
Michigan Democrats are choosing between moderate U.S. Representative Haley Stevens and progressive favorite Abdul El Sayed. The winner will face U.S. Representative Mike Rogers in November. Rogers is running unopposed after narrowly losing a Senate race in 2024. Speaking to reporters yesterday, President Trump was asked about today's elections.
You have a communist versus a socialist. It looks like the communist is leading. We're talking about for the Democrat primary. But for the Republican, you have a very good man, and he should be able to win.
I'm Marcela Sanchez.
A suspect in Washington state is arrested for starting a wildfire.
Authorities say they have arrested a 37-year-old man suspected of intentionally starting one of the devastating wildfires burning around Spokane, Washington. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office say they have arrested Aaron F. Farinacci for arson. He's accused of starting the Old Trails Fire. It's one of 3 fires that are burning in the area, which have destroyed at least 700 structures and forced more than 60,000 people to evacuate. That fire sparked on Saturday. Farinacci will make his first court appearance today. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will not withdraw from its current lines in Gaza until Hamas has completely disarmed. In remarks on Tuesday, he pushed back on a recent deal announced by U.S. President Donald Trump. Good day on Wall Street with the Dow by 907 points. The Nasdaq rose 671 with the S&P 500 advancing 136. Oil near $75 a barrel. More at townhall.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-822-1716. 800-822-1716. 800-822-1716.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Another near-normal hot day on the way Wednesday with some storms too. A low of 71 and a high of 90 on Wednesday. Mostly sunny, turning partly cloudy. The chance for storms comes in the evening, especially late evening for St. Louis. A low chance for some strong winds with any storms late evening Wednesday. Then overnight into Thursday, more scattered storms are likely. Some could produce some isolated pockets of flooding into Thursday morning. A low of 70 Thursday morning. Then in the afternoon, mostly cloudy. Slim chance for a few showers Thursday afternoon. The better chance cancel come Thursday night, and a high of 85 as it cools down but stays muggy for Thursday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hungry at midnight? Craving a home-cooked breakfast at noon? At Gingham's Homestyle Restaurant, we've got ya 24 hours a day. For 35 years, folks have been coming back for our famous fried chicken, bone-in catfish, country fried steak, slow-cooked pot roast, scratch-made pancakes, or a slice of homemade pie. Daily specials and a loyalty rewards program that actually pays off. There's always a reason to come back to Gingham's Restaurant in St. Charles. Skip the wait. Join our wait list on Yelp or at ginghamsrestaurant.com.
I'm Bill Eigel. I'm a no on data centers. Last year, when a new hyperscale data center was up for a vote in St. Charles City, I'm the only candidate for county executive who stood with you in opposition. Meanwhile, Steve Ellman was writing op-eds in support of data centers. In fact, he spent $400,000 of your taxpayer money.
Michael from Missouri, Lisa Borchers, treasurer.
Tired of being the main course at your own backyard barbecue? Meet the Mosquito SWAT team. Every member is a licensed technician who custom mixes your treatment on site. We've got over 15 options and we never lock you into a contract. Take back your backyard, themosquitoswatteam.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic right and duty. The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Jackson R2 school district administrators have canceled all sporting contests and practices for tonight, including Jackson's first football home game of the season against Edwardsville. Classes today were called off. According to the district's Facebook page, this all follows a threat of school violence received late last night on social media. The district says the closure will give law enforcement plenty of time to investigate this threat. The threat follows a string of similar threats made nationwide and elsewhere in the heartland this week.
5:07, and welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show. And sadly, over the last 30-plus years or so since Columbine, we have seen school shootings, school massacres. And because of that, you can expect school administrators to be extra cautious to try to keep parents and faculty safe. But we have a case here where I think that the school district went a bit too far. On the line with us is Dave Roland, Director of Allied Litigation at the Goldwater Institute. Dave, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Dave, I don't think you've ever been on the show before, have you? Is this your first time?
Oh, I have. No, I've been on the show before, just in different roles. I have been, for 15 years, the Director of Litigation for the Freedom Center of Missouri, and I've been on the show a couple of times in that capacity, but in January I moved over to the Goldwater Institute. So this is my first time wearing that particular hat.
Dave, before we dive into this case about a Missouri student suspended for reporting a school threat, tell us about the Goldwater Institute and your role there as Director of Allied Litigation.
Sure. The Goldwater Institute is a free market organization that emphasizes the idea of individual liberty. So it's the kind of thing that I think a lot of your listeners would be able to appreciate. Back several years ago, they also introduced a litigation component. So in addition to coming up with policy ideas that are designed to maximize individual freedom, we also go out and we fight for those ideas in court, enforcing constitutional principles. It started out just in Arizona, which is where Goldwater is located or headquartered, but we have since expanded nationwide. So they hired me. I've been here in Missouri for quite some time. They hired me to come in and be the director of allied litigation. And so my focus is to try and find cases all over the country that kind of promote these ideals of individual liberty and free market principles, and then take the fight into the courts in those states, especially if there's a way to vindicate state constitutional principles. So that is my role with Goldwater.
Are you in Arizona now?
No, one of the first things I asked when they suggested that I might join is I said, well, do I have to leave Missouri? Because I want to stay right here. And they said, no, we'd love for you to stay in Missouri. And so I have remained here in Albany County, and they adopted several of my best cases from the Freedom Center. And I've been very grateful that I've been able to continue working on those cases.
All right, let's dive into this case. A Missouri 7th grader was suspended for an entire school year after recreating from memory a threatening social media post she'd seen at home while trying to explain it to a friend. Give us more details on this, David.
Well, so I want to start with the clip that you played to introduce this segment. And one of the things that news report mentioned is they wanted to have an opportunity for the police to look into this alleged threat. And when the police looked into it, they found out exactly what happened. And it was not this child making a threat at all. She had seen something else posted on social media. It was one of these platforms where messages can be deleted or they disappear after a certain amount of time. And so that original message was gone, but she was worried about it. And she reached out to a student in a nearby school district who seemed to know all about these various threats that were circulating in September of 2024. And she asked, is this something I should be concerned about? He asked, did she have a screenshot? And she said, no, but I can, I can show you what I saw. And so she created an image and tried to recreate the message and sent it to him and said, that's what I saw someone post. The police saw this, and they very quickly came to the conclusion, there's no problem here. This is a child who was worried. She asked for a different perspective, but she wasn't making a threat to anybody. After the police made that determination, though, school officials decided they weren't satisfied. And so on extremely short notice, less than 24 hours notice, they demanded that the child's parents bring her in for a conversation. They didn't in advance that she was accused of violating any school policies. They didn't tell her in advance that they were considering suspending or expelling her. They just said, okay, we know that you made this image. Can you tell us what happened? And she did. She explained the context. She shared the messages she had exchanged with this other student. And it was obvious conclusion to say that he thought that she needed to be punished. The superintendent never told her about this conversation, not even when we specifically asked for all of the evidence that they relied on to come to their conclusions. And that's a due process problem. How is a student supposed to defend themselves against statements made by someone when they're never told what's being said? She never had an opportunity to explain her side of that issue. She never had an opportunity to cross-examine someone who was contradicting her own version of events. And that's a very big due process problem, because you can't be expected to refute arguments that you're never made aware of in the first place. You can't be expected to counter testimony that you're never told the prosecution is relying on. And that's exactly what the school district did here. So it's a due process problem, but it's also a First Amendment problem, because students have to be allowed to share their concerns privately with other students, especially when there's zero threatening intent.
What is the school district saying about this extreme punishment, where it seems there was just an honest mistake or a mischaracterization of the deal? Why did they just stick with this the way that they did and not reverse themselves?
Well, the why is a question I can't answer, and I'm mystified by it myself. But the biggest problem that we have legally with what they're saying is they are saying it doesn't matter whether this child's speech would have been protected in any other context. The fact that they perceived it as a threat and canceled school for a day means that they get to punish the student regardless. That is their theory of the case, is it doesn't matter whether she actually intended to threaten anybody or whether she intended for them to react by shutting down the schools. The mere fact that they shut down the schools is their justification for punishing her. And that's a very scary theory because anyone could say something that gets mistakenly interpreted by someone else and causes a concern or a panic. And unless there is some sort of ill intent, malicious intent, the First Amendment cannot allow the government to punish someone for this sort of an innocent statement, regardless of what the consequences of that statement might have been.
What is the history of this student? Did she have a history of suspensions or acting out in class?
She had an absolutely pristine disciplinary record. She had never been in trouble with anyone at all. She got good grades. She was well liked. There was no basis whatsoever for treating her so harshly.
So what are you and the litigation center, Allied Litigation Center, and the parents, what are you asking for from the litigation? Is it damages or
can cause? So that's the number one thing. Number two is we want her record cleared. As I mentioned, her permanent record right now lists that she threatened violence against a school. We need that record cleared. And then although in my 20-year history as a constitutional litigator, I have never asked for money damages in a case. This family suffered so much financial consequences as a result of the school's unconstitutional actions that we are asking for the school district to have to compensate them for the financial injury that they suffered, having to homeschool their child for a year, having to try and find other ways to get her the kind of enrichment and education that she should have been provided as part of the Jackson Public Schools. Speaking with Dave Roland, Director of Allied Litigation at the Goldwater Institute. Give us an update today on this particular student. Is she back in this school district, or is she going to another school? She's going to be starting at a private high school in just another couple of weeks. She doesn't feel like she can go back to the Jackson Public Schools. The friends that she has left, and there are not very many of them, have told her that other kids at the school think that she's a psycho. And the district has done nothing to disabuse them of that perspective. And she feels like she can't walk back into that and have people constantly saying, oh, this is the kid that, caused all this trouble. This is the kid who made these threats. She needs a fresh start. And so that's why she's going to be going to a private school in the fall. The other student that she was trying to share this information with, did that student suffer any consequences or backlash at all? Absolutely nothing. The student was outside of the Jackson School District's jurisdiction, so they couldn't take any action against that student. And by the way, that student is the one who shared this thing publicly. My client never intended for the image that she made to be shared publicly. She was simply trying to help this other student understand what she had seen. And so it was completely without her knowledge that he decided to share this. But he got off scot-free. He hasn't suffered any negative repercussions whatsoever. And what type of time frame are you looking at for a resolution in this case? So we are in front of the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals. And we expect that we are going to have oral argument in this case probably early next year, somewhere between February or April. And then it could take, 4 months or so for the court to hand down a decision, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, but that's a good ballpark. So I would expect that we would have a resolution from the Eighth Circuit sometime around the middle of next year. Dave, will you come back when that case is resolved so we can get an update on it? I would love to, Chris, anytime.
All right. That's Dave Roland, Director of Allied Litigation at the Goldwater Institute, goldwaterinstitute.org, and on X, Goldwater, INST, Inst. David, thank you so much for your time. It was great catching up with you, my friend, and good luck with this case.
Thanks very much, Chris.
5:20 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Next, we'll speak with David Barklage. He is the premier political consultant here in Missouri. He's owner of Barklage Company. We'll get his thoughts on some of these important ballot initiatives and some of these local races. He's coming up next on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
This land is your land. This land is my land.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL.
California. Well, to the New York Island. From the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Another near normal hot day on the way Wednesday with some storms too. A low of 71 and a high of 90 on Wednesday. Mostly sunny, turning partly cloudy. The chance for storms comes in the evening, especially late evening for St. Louis. A low chance for some strong winds with any storms late evening Wednesday. Then overnight into Thursday, more scattered storms are likely. Some could produce some isolated pockets of flooding into Thursday morning. A low of 70 Thursday morning. Then in the afternoon, mostly cloudy. Slim chance for a few showers Thursday afternoon. The better chance will come Thursday night, and a high of 85 as it cools down but stays muggy for Thursday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
You know, Everett Jones texted me the other day, so I was listening to the show. Thank you, Everett. Always appreciate you and your entire family at joneswater.com. They are big supporters of the station. They're listeners to the station and to the show. And Everett reminded me to speak about something that I've got in my Jones home that Everett and his son Austin put in a couple of years ago, and we have loved it ever since. The April Air whole home dehumidifier. You know April Air. They're a very reliable brand. They've been around for a long time. They're one of the brands that Jones Air and Water recommends. Now, Jones Air and Water, they're not beholden to any brand. They're like whatever is the latest and greatest and the best and the most well-performing, that's what they're going to recommend. So sometimes it might be a variety of things. Well, the April Air dehumidifier is the one that we have, and it's the one that Jones Air and Water is promoting these days. That will remove all the clamminess, in the air, right? So tomorrow, we're supposed to go back up into the 90s. I'm sure that humidity is going to kick back in. And even though you got your AC running on full blast, if you don't have a dehumidifier, then you're going to feel the air in your house is going to feel, it's going to feel gross, right? It's going to feel heavy. It's going to feel wet because there's water in the air. The dehumidifier takes all that out. That allows your air conditioning system to work more efficiently, to work less hard, right? And to be more productive. And you're going to feel better, and your whole family's going to feel better as well. HTO, that is the Hydrotech whole home system for softening and filtration. We have that as well. And then here at the studio, we've got the reverse osmosis water system. That's those little spigots that the Jones Air and Water folks can put anywhere in your home or your business. And that will deliver you an unending supply of delicious reverse osmosis water. Water, lots of good, clean, pure water, an important foundational building block to anybody's good diet. All of these products and so much more can be found online at joneswater.com. That's joneswater.com.
Oh, Adam, you are so romantic. And I love the kitchen you found with all these great crumbs.
Yeah, baby, only the finest crumbs in the kitchen for my favorite aunt. Oh no, it's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They always kill the mood.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888. We'd love to help you out. Learn more about our special $67 offer. You can visit us online at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stiefel. Contact your Stiefel financial advisor at stiefel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
If I became president, no more last day. I would love all the taxes just to suit your taste.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Station them around your door so the world can't
Minnesota GOP candidate for governor Mike Lindell says he's being wrongly attacked for tossing pillows at parades. He says his campaign threw out plain pillows, not expensive decorative ones.
Mike Lindell says he went to the state campaign finance board and was told the pillows, which he says are worth $4.90, are worth less than the $5 carve-out for allowable campaign giveaways.
It was a set-up hit job, and I feel very confident that there was no violations, as you heard on there, Esme. We did all our due diligence, the lawyer, there were so many pieces here.
525 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Wait a minute, Joy. He said those pillows are worth $4.95, right?
That's correct.
Doesn't he sell those on TV for about $40?
These were teeny tiny pillows. They weren't like the big ones. I don't think they were from Giza.
Okay, the Giza sheets. All right. On the line with us is my good friend and premier Missouri political consultant, David Barklage. David, how are you, my friend?
I knew that you would find some way to pay me for this interview, and I'll take the compliments.
All right, David. We got a lot going on the ballot today. Of course, the two ballot amendments that have been taking up most of the political oxygen these last few weeks and months are Amendment 4 and 5. Amendment 5, if you just look at social media and our listeners and the callers, doesn't seem like it's going to pass tonight. You're a political consultant. What would you say that Amendment 5 did wrong on trying to sell this to the people?
Well, and let me disclose, and I'll try to disclose throughout the show where I have an interest into that regard. I am working with the realtors who are part of the coalition against Amendment 4 and 5. But with that being said, philosophically, there's a lot of things that Amendment 5 is trying to accomplish that I agree with. But let me sort of tell you where I think what the polling shows.
Mm-hmm.
One is, I think that it's going to go down more than 2-1. I think that my belief is that you need a long runway for something complicated like this. And unfortunately, the way our government is structured to reform the tax system is not easy. And so I would just say that the plan that was brought forward is very confusing to people. I don't know, how you would do the right plan, again, because it's very, very tough. And I think it was an amazing effort that the governor put forward to the legislature to get passed. But here's the problem. The average person doesn't realize that our current system is regressive. It's based on 70,000 plus pages of IRS code, that it is inefficient. There's over $1 billion of corporate welfare, which is off the budget. It isn't in the budget process, that it is over-reliant on income tax, which with AI is going to make it very vulnerable and could end up bankrupting some of our institutions. No one really talked about those inconsistencies. And so to get people to want to move from a status quo without attacking it, I think is very problematic. So I think it failed, one, in trying to show why we need change. We need to stabilize our income. We need to modernize our system. Second, I would say that the plan, as they envisioned, didn't articulate, who was going to get their taxes raised. And as a result, we're not in an era where people trust politicians. And the idea that you have 1,000 lobbyists and you've got less than 200 legislators, that's easily 5 lobbyists per legislator, and that 80% of the money that legislators raise nowadays comes from lobbyists or special interest. The idea that you're going to trust that group of lobbyists to stand down and to allow an equitable system to be formed, a complex system, when the legislature is going to be picking all the winners and losers. And so to that regard, that created a huge obstacle to, I think, the minds of the average person, because honestly, depending on what you tax determines who comes out ahead or behind. You could be taxing luxury services, send taxes, and get rid of tax credits, and actually your working class would turn out very well. But then maybe you don't. Maybe you tax gasoline. Maybe you tax other things. And it's hard for me to believe when someone says, they won't do that. The reason that our system has 2,000 exemptions currently in it is because those were exemptions that were brought in generally by the legislature. Why we have $1 billion tax credits that goes around the Hancock Amendment is because of the legislature. To that regard, I'll say one line, is that that you have a bigger problem of, I guess it's just trust, complicated system, a short runway to try to get this done, and a very complex system to reform. With that being said, I think what the governor did was an act of courage, that the legislature followed him, showed good leadership on his part, and it was an attempt that I hope that comes back and that there are other approaches. So I'm hoping that this is not a defeat for a person, for the body, or for the concept of lowering or eliminating income tax, but more about the process, that maybe this plan had defects and was not perfect, and maybe you can't design one with our current system.
Speaking with David Barklage, he, of course, is president at the Barklage Company. David, as you know, my partner Tim Jones was part of the effort to pass Amendment 5, and he's been called everything but a child of Jesus from those who oppose it. You have a lot of factions within the grassroots movement that are against Amendment 5. You have those who are, quote unquote, part of the establishment or the political class who support it. There is a big divide there. How worried are you that big divide won't bring us back together after the primaries? Because there's a lot of hurt feelings going back and forth between both sides.
Well, I'll say this one. Tim is the more I get to know him, the more I like him. He was a good leader when he was speaker, and he's been even a stronger leader in the community since then. So, I can't say anything about his performance except good things, and I really like him. To that said, the realtors took very concerted effort to never name politicians. Never name specific politicians, never name the legislature, never name the governor. All our advertising was aimed at, quote, special interest and politicians in general. So the realtors did everything they could to try to avoid a conflict. Let me take you back, though. The realtors tried to negotiate their way out of this. And I have to tell you something about realtors. Realtors, whatever your opinion may or may not be about them, they truly believe in home ownership and protecting home ownership. It is in their core. And to that regard, they spent 25 years of dues of $5, $10, $25, putting in the kitty, so to speak, to pass multiple constitutional amendments to protect their interest. And it wasn't until those were basically suspended or would have been repealed and the suspension of the Hancock Amendment that forced them into this campaign. So from their standpoint, they are wanting to, get back in and do good things for the state. There are coalition members that have a different political viewpoint that may not be Republican or conservative or support this tax proposal. And, it's the same thing. When you're running for office, you may have people that are desperately different. They vote for you for different reasons. But remember, you're the candidate, and you're not them. So you might have someone who's pro-life or pro-choice voting for the same candidate because maybe they like his position, in one place or another. I would argue that this coalition came together overall for this issue, and that while many people have some different opinion or different approaches, that for the most part, I don't think it'd be divisive. And I'm sorry if anybody called Tim a name. He certainly doesn't deserve it, nor does anybody else. And I will say that there was a lot of advertising targeted at the realtors, calling them communist, calling them, all socialist, everything else. And the realtors never responded one time. You cannot find one ad, one piece of paid media whatsoever that realtors did anything attacking. So I'm sorry if other coalition partners did that, but the realtors would never participate in that, and they want to see constructive dialogue in government.
David, the other big contentious ballot amendment is, of course, Amendment 4. Proponents of Amendment 4 will say we've been trying for years to try to get IP reform. We've had out-of-state billionaires that have put things in the Missouri Constitution that conservatives don't agree with, that our Constitution is way too easy to amend. Give us your thoughts on Amendment 4.
It is a pig, and I don't even think there's lipstick on it. Chris, I'm very passionate about this. Because let me just tell you, for over 100 years, the only place reformers and Republicans had to go to change government was through the initiative petition process. I mean, whether you're talking about getting rid of the Pendergast machine, getting women the right to vote, Hancock tax limitation, none of those things would have been passed by legislature. Why? Because legislatures are not, by the way they are structured, to pass sweeping reforms. Legislature is two different bodies that have two different parties, or two parties in each body that are juxtaposed with the governor, and to that extent, nothing significant gets through. We have not seen major reform until now, until they put this on the ballot, sweeping reform in the legislature. It just doesn't happen. And to that regard, for them to take away that right, and that's what they're doing, take away, because let me tell you something. Yes, what you just said is accurate. Out-of-state billionaires are coming in and managing our government because we have failed to do meaningful reform. For example, why not limit the number of words in a constitutional amendment, 250 or 500, so we don't have 40 pages of weed in our Constitution, 1 of 5 words of weed. Medicaid expansion, if you don't like that, well, let me tell you how you could have fixed it. One sentence. You could have closed the loophole that would shut down that existing programs also required to have revenue sources like new programs. In other words, when you put some on the ballot, you've got to have you've got to put a new revenue source with it. That would have made the impact there. I can point to Clean Missouri, that if you had a preemptive challenge or you would have 250 words, you couldn't hide things in that. And to that regard, they could solve almost every problem and preserve the process, but they chose some cheap, absolutely a cheap method that's really meant to protect their power. And let me just tell you something, Chris. Mm-hmm. You and I will rule the day that the progressives take over, and all of a sudden they're passing everything they want, and there's nothing we can do about it. We'll go like, boy, I wish we wouldn't have done that. And here's the crazy thing. Their whole concept is we're going to trade a majority rule with a minority rule. We're tired of people coming in and passing things here, so we're going to allow one congressional district to veto it. So you tell me, what would St. Louis City, Cori Bush's district, vote that you and I would support, or would they block anything? If we wanted abortion outlawed, if we wanted gun rights, if we wanted meaningful budget reforms, what do you think St. Louis, that congressional district, would do? They would block every one of those, and we would have no voice in government. It's short-sighted. It's going to go down 2-1 or more, and it should. And the legislature should turn around and actually look at meaningful reforms.
All right, all eyes are going to be on St. Charles County tonight, the premier race there for St. Charles County Executive, Bill Eigel, Jason Law, Steve Ellman. Where do you see that race? Are we going to have a new county executive in St. Charles County?
So I have to disclose that Steve Ellman hired me when Republicans had a super minority to get a majority. And that led to a 16-year career building the Senate majority from a minority to a 3/4 majority with the Senate's Republicans controlling every single county in the state, including parts of St. Louis City. To that regard, I believe what's best for the region and best for St. Charles is Steve Ellman. I think Steve is very competitive. It's hard to know. I think it's going to be interested. Is there crossover? Crossover would probably help Steve. I think that at the same time, one would have to argue that St. Charles County has been electing a lot more Bill Eigels than Steve Ellman. So I think it's probably a toss-up, and I don't think anybody really knows. I don't know anybody that has polling any more current than ours. At that time, Ellman was up, but a lot of things have changed. He was attacked by both Law and by Ellman, which is unfortunate. I think Jason Law would do a good job as county executive. I think, and some people disagree with me, but I think Bill Eigel would be a responsible administrator and would work hard for the county. I think people in St. Charles care about St. Charles. I think that right now with the changeover in all the regional governments, Franklin County, Jefferson County, St. Louis County, St. Louis City, it makes sense to have someone that's been there for some time as a stabilized force. And something, Chris, that most people haven't realized. Steve Ellman was the outlier. He was, sort of scorned by the business community, by the St. Louis City and County as that annoying person from St. Charles County who had to remind us that maybe our airport's not being run right or we have too much crime or anything else. It turns out that Steve Ellman was way ahead of his time. He took on the city, the business community, and others for their terrible policies that has disrupted and destroyed this region. And he's the only voice that's been there. He continues to take those issues on. I'm comfortable with him, and I hope the voters will, but that's a toss-up.
David, another race that not only our region are watching, but the nation is watching as well. That's the first congressional rematch between Cori Bush and Wesley Bell. David, does the DSA wave wash over Wesley Bell tonight?
I don't think so, but I have to tell you is that it's very disconcerting in both parties. We are seeing, and Chris, I think you and I are brothers from a different mother on this one, and that is that I am afraid of what November is going to bring. And I'm going to come back to this, but I'll just say this. We are seeing Trump voters don't turn out in primaries. Other Republican voters seem to be either happy or dissatisfied, but I don't see them motivated. So I think Republican turnout is going to be at a historic low. Democrats, if you're a Democrat, you hate Trump, you're energized, you're going to go out, you want to punish anybody that's in that party or does anything with Trump. But the problem is that's two of the legs, and those two legs going where they are could create a wave election. But we're actually in a perfect storm election, and that is independent voters, which typically move to one direction or the other or maybe split, are hugely anti-incumbent. They are just very mad. And so what they're doing in these primaries, they're throwing out the incumbent, Republican or Democrat primaries. And so what they're effectively doing is the challengers are the DSAs, are the more radical, and they're winning in both primaries. We're on the verge in Tennessee that Senator Marsha Blackburn, who was a overwhelming favorite, may end up losing the Tennessee primary. We saw in Colorado on the Democrat side that the incumbent senator running for governor against a no one got beat. And so we're seeing around the country. So Wesley is vulnerable, but from what I understand in polling, I think he survives. I think that the only thing that's different this year is I'm not seeing black turnout to be particularly strong. In fact, I think it's down, somewhat depressed. And to that regard, that might, say that if the city is down, those Cori Bush, Kim Gardner awful voters are depressed some, that hopefully then Wesley, who is, my second choice, I've never made my first choice, but Cori, I think that he ends up winning.
All right, my friend, I'm going to put you on the spot here for my last question. Win or lose, does Bill Eigel primary Governor Kehoe in 2028? Win or lose tonight?
Look, Bill is incredibly talented. He is charismatic. He should have a very good future. Win or lose, I think he has to look at every race. I am, again, I got to disclose, I'm a Kehoe fan. Mike's story is amazing, and I think as governor, he's been very successful in getting things to his legislature and taking on issues that most people would not take. And to that regard, kudos to him. I think Bill has to look at it. The question is, running campaigns take a toll on you, and for him and his family, he has to look at, gosh, do I want to run a third campaign in less than 4 years? And to that regard, I wouldn't blame him for wanting to take time off. On the other hand, he's very talented. So while I'd be voting and supporting for Governor Kehoe, I think that one would be remiss not to believe that Bill Eigel is a threat to Mike Kehoe and would be an able competitor.
That is,
you have to get the lieutenant governor out of the way. I think that you could see David Wassinger in that race as well.
That is the David Barklage, political consultant extraordinaire, president at the Barklage Company. David, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that. Good, and you gave our listeners good insight there.
Tell your wife I said hello, and thank you so much for having me. And when you see Tim, if I don't see him first, you tell him thinking about him, and I'm sorry if anybody beat up on him, but you know what? Tim can take a beating, and he can give one back. He's a tough guy.
That is true. Thank you, my friend, and we'll speak with you later.
Yes, sir.
All right, 5:44, and we're going to talk about, we're going to give you an update on Washington State's wildfire arson suspect. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon. Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Another near normal hot day on the way Wednesday with some storms too. A low of 71 and a high of 90 on Wednesday. Mostly sunny, turning partly cloudy. The chance for storms comes in the evening, especially the late evening for St. Louis. A low chance for some strong winds with any storms late evening Wednesday. Then overnight into Thursday, more scattered storms are likely. Some could produce some isolated pockets of flooding into Thursday morning. A low of 70 Thursday morning. Then in the afternoon, mostly cloudy. Slim chance for a few showers Thursday afternoon. The better chance will come Thursday night, and a high of 85 as it cools down but stays muggy for Thursday. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, let me ask you, is 2026 the year you finally buy that home? If it is, Royal Banks of Missouri is the kind of place you want on your side. Their mortgage team doesn't just hand you a rate and send you on your way. They actually walk with you through the whole process. And that matters because there's no call center, there's no out-of-town decision maker. You're dealing with local people who know this market and are working for you. Now, maybe you're already in your home and you've been thinking about making it better, a backyard upgrade, a patio, maybe finally taking your family trip you've been putting off. That's where a Royal Banks of Missouri home equity line of credit comes in. It gives you the flexibility to use the value you've already built in your home to actually enjoy your life a little more. It's simple, it's convenient, and it gives you peace of mind. Give Royal Banks of Missouri a call at 314-212-1500, or you can visit them online at royalbanksofmo.com to get started. Royal Banks of Missouri, investing in our communities one client at a time. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Identity theft can cost more than you think. Drained investment accounts, stolen tax returns, lost wages, expenses for lawyers. It's a lot. That's why LifeLock is backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, which covers up to $1 million for stolen funds, fees, and experts and lawyers, and out-of-pocket expenses. Don't face the burden of identity theft alone. Protect your future and finances with LifeLock. Join now. Save up to 30% off your first year with promo code BECK at LifeLock.com. 1-800-LifeLock, promo code BECK. LifeLock.com. Terms to apply.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You've still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight illnesses like pneumococcal pneumonia and RSV. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and can help protect you from getting really sick. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. See more at PfizerForAll.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Follow Chris Arps on Twitter at Chris_Arps.
We are staying on top of those devastating wildfires in Washington state. Firefighters are still trying to save homes. 67,000 people have been evacuated, and today authorities arrested the person they believe started the fires. This man right here, 37-year-old Aaron Farinacci, who was convicted of manslaughter for killing his father in 2010, was arrested on suspicion of first-degree arson in connection to one of the 3 fires burning in Spokane County.
549, and Aaron F. Farinacci of Spokane, of course, as you heard in that clip, was arrested for starting these wildfires in Washington state. For Farinacci, when he was 21 years old, he shot and killed his father in Mesa, Arizona, during a 2010 argument about washing dishes, police said. Farinacci shot himself, but he survived. He was charged with murder, but pleaded guilty in 2012 to manslaughter and aggravated assault. Farinacci was released from prison in 2020. So he goes from murdering his father to being an arsonist. What a real winner there.
I mean, how dirty could these dishes have been to cause such an argument? I assume someone must have made eggs a week ago and didn't rinse out the pan, and it was just stinking up the kitchen.
I mean, that's pretty that can piss you off, man, trying to scrub dishes that the food has stood on there for a week, and you got to scrub it and everything.
Do you keep your guns right there next to the sink? I think that would be damaging to them. They could rust or something.
Don't
tell me where you hide your guns. They're all over the house.
I wasn't going to tell you that, but
gun compartment.
Yeah, Aaron Farinacci, he is the suspect in this setting these wildfires. A real hero to society here. Killed his father at 21, shot him because they had an argument about washing dishes.
What duty is he going to get in prison? I don't think he's going to be washing dishes. They're going to make him do laundry.
You know what? That's a good point. Don't give him kitchen duty. He might be very violent.
A lot of knives around there.
Exactly. He'll probably end up in the hole probably his whole time if you give him kitchen duty.
Someplace hot. So, yeah, somewhere in the laundry room where he's just got to be in next to the dryers all day because of the fires he started.
You know what? That's a good point there. You may not want him there as well. So I don't know where you put him. Maybe put him on toilet patrol or something.
Oh, yeah. Here's your brush. It is your brush.
Here's your
there are many
toothbrush.
like it, but this one is yours.
Joey, some businesses are pledging not to use AI-generated flyers or ads after a consumer pushback. People say they can spot AI-made posters immediately, usually thanks to the busy or repetitive designs, and that's a turnoff. And SLC's Acres High Saloon recently announced that it would no longer share AI flyers for events there. The venue posted, quote, "Please hit up a local artist or cut out magazines or we can help too. Do it yourself or die, baby." Joy, if you saw a AI-generated flyer, would you no, I'm not going to this place?
I think about the people who are putting on the event and whether they are working on a shoestring budget and they're trying to do some good for the community. You know, if it's a nonprofit and they're trying to raise money for the homeless, then go for it, I guess. But it's really more about the prompts that you put into the AI about how bad your flyer is going to be. I think when we first started doing AI and we would tell it to make a picture of us, it always looked like the weird Pixar type of animation with the big eyes and the waxy skin.
The eyes look completely fake.
And then as we made AI a little bit better, the art styles changed. And then it would teach you, put what kind of art style you want. Like make this a Van Gogh or something.
Yeah.
And that would help out. I actually made an AI flyer for the first time last week because you see them everywhere. And I was like, how hard is this? You just copy and paste an email of the information and then put it in and it spits out a flyer? It does. It's that simple.
Yeah.
What I'd like to do is I say, make it look like it was hand-drawn by a baby. And then it's all crayons and stuff, and no one can prove that it was made by a robot. They just think it was made by a little baby.
You know, one thing that you don't see anymore on AI, and I guess this is a massive improvement, you don't see people with 7 or 8 fingers on one hand or 12 toes. I mean, that's been a major improvement, and that was a dead giveaway that it was AI.
I know people are very much against AI, but I do it every day to make our little thumbnail just to see how the technology is advancing. And it is wild if you look at some of the AI thumbnails we've made this year versus last year, where it takes a picture of you guys and then it'll put you guys into a 3D environment where your heads have perfect shading and the lighting looks great and it looks like it's fully integrated into the picture. Before it just looked like a cutout head on a body, but now it actually looks like it's kind of a photo.
Well, I got to tell you, a good friend of mine who sees the memes on my Facebook page, and actually he was a guest on Vic Porcelli's show yesterday, Lenny McAllister, he loves your memes. He always compliments me on how well they are done. And I had to tell him, I didn't take credit for it, Joey. I said, hey, that's our producer, Joey V. I have nothing to do with those. He was giving me credit like I designed them or something. I was like, I can't take the credit.
I actually heard him on Vic Porcelli saying, oh, I love those little memes they do every day. I was like, well, I'm going to clip that and turn that into a video.
He does. He's not just patronizing. He loves those memes. Speaking of AI, OpenAI is pushing into consumer devices and is expected to begin with a mobile screen-free smart speaker designed to be a new type of home computer for the AI era. OpenAI thinks that the product's defining feature will be its personality and ability to connect on a human-like level with users. It will have a built-in camera and sensors so it can see and understand its surroundings. Joy, you can replace your Alexa with this.
I don't know. I just read a story about how people don't want to buy the Meta glasses because they don't trust Facebook having all the information. There's other types of glasses that you can use that'll do augmented reality or do some tasks for you, but they just don't want the Facebook integration. And if OpenAI keeps getting these bad headlines like it hacked someone else's AI company, I don't think people will want OpenAI on anything.
Were you surprised that the whole Ray-Ban Meta glasses never took off? I mean, they've touted that this is the next best thing. You just put on a pair of glasses, you can record things and everything. I mean, of course, people were like, I don't want to be around somebody who's potentially videotaping me or taping me and could use this against me. And it was supposed to have like a light on the side of it so you could tell if it was taping or not. But those, and I see ads for them now. Ray-Ban has partnered up with Meta to sell these things, but those things never did take off.
Yeah, they just look so heavy. I wear contacts, and at night when I have the glasses on, they just give me a headache because they're so heavy on my nose, and I'm always trying to get lighter and lighter ones.
You have a pair?
I don't have a pair of Ray-Bans, but just glasses in general. I hate glasses. And especially these, remember the Apple Vision Pro that was like a giant VR headset? People are going to start watching movies with this $4,000 device, and you have to wear the battery in your back pocket. They're just too heavy. I don't like it. Even when I see Avatar, I kind of prepare myself. This is a 3.5-hour movie, and I got to wear these stupid glasses.
So would you like a Alexa device that's even more interactive, that has a camera that can look at you and do that, or is that too much?
That's all stuff that's fun for a little bit, and then I go back to flipping the switch the old way. Remember, it's like I don't need my house to be as smart as everyone wants me to have it.
You know, I did a Chris's Corner talking about how people are getting attached to AI bots and not having children and not dating. Well, the number of people under 18 in major urban areas is down 6% in a decade, and the number of under 5s is down 15%. Even cities where the population is growing are losing children. Could be some Joey, you getting up there in age, you're 40, you need to have some kids, man, populate. I need your kids to pay for my Social Security.
Oh, I thought you were losing children. You just got to put an Apple AirTag on them, and then it'll show up on your phone. You'll know where they are.
I mean, we all joke about this, but this is a serious deal when the country and the nation, the world is not having children.
Social media has made kids more annoying, so people don't want kids around. I think that's what's happened.
That's a good note to end the show on. You have been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Up next is Larry Connors USA. And don't forget, our live election night coverage starts at 7 p.m. with Tony Colombo. 1019 941 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great.
Hey, when pests invade your home, you need someone you can trust. It's Jamie Allman here, and at Buckingham Pest Control, they're not just your exterminators. They're your neighbors and friends. A locally owned family business and St. Louis Magazine A-List award winner, providing affordable, quality pest control. Plus, they offer energy-efficient TAP attic insulation, the only insulation that controls pests. Buckingham Pest Control.